Hey friends, it's Kevin with Better Bible Reading. Today we have a very interesting Bible review. This Bible that we have here is the English Standard Version, but not just any ESV Bible. This is the verse by verse edition of the Preaching Bible. So this is kind of the 2.0 version of an already popular Bible that Crossway put out years ago, the preaching edition. This one, by popular demand of some things that could be improved, is the verse by verse edition of it. And so, what that means is that in every genre, Old and New Testament, you have a verse by verse orientation all throughout. And this makes readability very helpful for those of us who preach or teach, lead Bible studies, Sunday school classes, etc. This verse by verse orientation is especially helpful for expositional verse by verse handlings of scripture in whatever teaching environment you find yourself. So, because of that, even though it's called a preaching Bible, after having used this Bible for just over a year now, I believe that that might even be a misnomer because I think that what you find in this Bible is something that could appeal to you as a reader. And if you're interested in purchasing it, you certainly don't have to be a preacher or a teacher in any capacity because this Bible is actually high end in all the right places so that it could be used even as a kind of wide margin Bible. So on this channel, I have featured and have made note quite often that my favorite kind of Bible is a wide margin Bible. I have two that I use all the time. I have a third one, which is my King James Version, which I have reviewed. It's a large print, wide margin Bible. Reviewed it a few years back now. But on the bottom, we have my ESV wide margin Bible, which I have rebound. You can also find a video on that rebinding. That was quite a fun experience. And then my latest and greatest, my Bible that this is really my go to Bible. If we use the New King James Version at my home church, then I would probably be preaching out of this one each and every week as well because I find myself actually appreciating that the most. But that's another topic for another day. But both of these are my wide margin Bibles. I use both of them for different reasons. And what I like about both of them is that I can build my own study notes into the Bible as I work my way through. And just like any wide margin Bible, the more you use it, the more resources and evidence of your own growing you have right there before you, and it's always there. They can start to get a little disoriented when you look at it like this, where I have, in my opinion, looking back on it now, too many colors happening and quite a bit of notes. So it's a little bit of a sensory overload experience, and that's why in my updated wide margin Bible, I have started to do a less is more approach. So you'll only see typically one highlighter color and more notes. But all that to be said, what does that have to do with this? Well, this, in terms of page real estate, it has a little bit less. If you look at the margins, it has a little bit less than what you see in this New King James wide margin that I've been using. And the reason for that is because in this Bible, you actually give up the inside margin for all the cross references. So the outside margin is wider by default. It's also a single column. So there's that. Now, my ESV wide margin is double column, and it does have margin space on the inside and the outside because all the cross references are in this little rectangle on the bottom of each page. But in terms of outside space, you really do have almost exactly the same on this as you do on this preaching Bible. Now, that's interesting because that means that if you're wanting to get a wide margin Bible, especially one that could last you a while, don't sleep on the ESV verse by verse preaching Bible because it has, in my opinion, very, very wide margins on the outside that you could very easily take notes. And I'll just show you an example of this. I'm going to turn here, if I can get here quickly. Turn here to First John. Now, I did some experimenting with this a while back. I actually used this as my preaching Bible, and I did it without any notes. So I just wanted to make some wide margin notes in my actual Bible, highlight some words that I wanted to emphasize, but I ended up just preaching with no notes at all, just what's right here, and it worked very well. Now, that might not work for everyone, but it is at least good to know that you can start to build some things here in the side margins. And if I zoom in really close, you can actually see I've made, here's the illustrations I want to use. Here's some key verse considerations, and then headings. So you can see my numbered headings from my sermons that I preached. And that was really helpful to be able to know that I could do this. And it also started to make me think, hey, this is actually a very good wide margin Bible. It's not marketed as a wide margin Bible at all, but you should absolutely know that it could work as that. And one of the other reasons why it's good as a wide margin option is that these pages are actually thicker than my ESV wide margin Bible. I mean, just feeling them, it might not be apparent on the video here, but just feeling the two of them, I would absolutely say that even if this isn't thicker, it is every bit as thick. I think it's a little bit thicker. Somebody could look that up and see what the actual page thickness of each of these two are, but definitely thick enough for note taking. It could definitely handle some highlighters, maybe more than others, but it could handle some highlighters because this one has really gone through the gauntlet of highlights through the years, and I'm sure that this one would hold up fine as well. The page gilding is beautiful. It's pretty cool, actually. If you look at it right on, it looks gold, but then when it lays out, it's got this red hue to it. I think that's really a nice touch, and this is one of ESV's, not probably the most, but it's one of their highest end premium Bibles that they offer. I think you could probably find some in their heirloom uh, editions that are maybe more than this. But this Bible, I mean, it's goatskin leather. It is just really soft. I mean, very, very floppy, and it just lays perfectly. You have this nice perimeter stitching. You have this nice gold inlay all the way across. I mean, this cover is just so soft, and I don't even know what word to use for it besides that, but it is really a nice Bible so that no matter where you are, it just lays open. I mean, if you're this far in, it just lays open, certainly will lay open the further you go. It's just there so that if you're in a pulpit or whatever, it's just going to lay flat and you got it there. Now, that's what really makes this orientation work well, I think, is that when you have the verse by verse, you have it right there before you. But in addition to that, if you compare it to let me get to the same page just so that we're comparing apples to apples here. So we're on Philippians chapter 3. If I turn to Philippians chapter 3 in my wide margin Bible, I mentioned my ESV wide margin Bible is 2-column. But something else to note is that the font size in my wide margin Bible is smaller than this. So that means two things. Number one, it does mean that this preaching Bible is a little bit thicker and a little bit heavier by comparison. Maybe not a whole lot, but it is See, these Bibles are so floppy; it's kind of hard to even distinguish. You can see there, though. This is the Preaching Bible. This is the wide margin. You can see it's beefier, it's thicker, it's heavier, certainly, but not like you're carrying around this massive study Bible by any stretch of the imagination. So that means that you do get some trade off because you have a thicker Bible. It is going to be heavier, etc. But because you are dealing with a thicker Bible, that means the reason that it's thicker is because the text size is larger. So I wouldn't consider this large print. It seems to hover somewhere between the default print that you would find in an ESV Bible and a large print ESV Bible. So it's, maybe we could say, medium print, but it is noticeable to me, being used to my wide margin Bible and just working my way through it all the time. When I look at this one, it is very apparent that the font is bigger and therefore easier to use, easier to see from a pulpit without having to maybe squint down, as some people might have to do when they're looking at their Bibles from a pulpit or from a teaching uh, lectern or anything like that. So, this Bible really should be on your radar if you're looking for something that is going to last. I mean, it's very high quality, very well made. You get 2 bookmarks. Um, Something that is going to be built to last for a preaching or teaching ministry. But as I say, you get nice things presented to you in this Bible. You do have the trade off of no cross reference system. That might be the biggest gripe that someone might have. But again, the kind of the idea of using this is that you get something that's just bare bones. You get helpful footnotes when applicable, but other than that, you don't get cross references. You just have a verse by verse orientation. You have a wide margin on the side and larger text, and that's it. But if you wanted to use this as a study Bible, it's really no problem to not have the cross references, because you should kind of be interested in building those yourself, anyways. You have something that is very well suited for notes because it's single column, and there's not 2 columns on the page, and because